Part of the tech pressure this morning is coming out of Washington. In the New York Times op-ed, Peter Thiel, again, questioning Google's work in and for China, while the Journal says that Facebook's acquisitions are being investigated by the FTC. All of this as Amazon's cloud business faces some new scrutiny from the Department of Defense. What does this mean for the stocks? Joining us today, RBC's Mark Mahaney and Mizuho's James Lee. Mark, that's a lot. It sort of flies in the face of the quarter so far, which has been about re-acceleration in revenue, right?
Yeah, so, well, you just threw a lot by me. So let me start off here. I think Peter Thiel is absolutely right with his comments, but they're more political in nature about Google. I think the FTC and Facebook, I don't know what's going to be looked at there. I find it extremely unlikely that Facebook's going to be required to unwind an acquisition that it did 7 years ago. That would be Instagram or WhatsApp 5 years ago. I think that'd be extremely unlikely, almost entirely unprecedented. And then what I find really interesting for both the stock and also for the politics is what's happening with the DoD and Amazon here. I think it's very hard to see why Amazon and also probably Microsoft wouldn't win the DoD contract if you're going to outsource cloud computing by the Pentagon to one company. If you're only do it to one company, I can't imagine you do it to anybody other than Amazon. They're the clear leader in cloud computing, and maybe you bring in Microsoft as kind of a backup, a second source. You certainly wouldn't bring in some of the other companies that have been mentioned, like IBM and Oracle. So I find that very unusual and frankly a little disturbing. That's all I got to say on that.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, that's a key point, and you also have to look at the companies that actually have these top security rankings to even be able to handle some of the data and some of the AI capabilities, et cetera, that the Pentagon is even looking for. That being said, if you look at how, I guess, cloud economics have played out, for example, in the business community, we have seen more companies shifting more of their, cloud to a variety of providers and also doing things like hybrid cloud. Should the government be thinking about those policies?
Oh, absolutely. Look, there's a lot of evolution that's going on in cloud now. But actually, I think one of the most interesting from a product technology perspective is the application of machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's part of the offering. It's what's making AWS's offering and Google Cloud's offering also and Azure's offerings much more robust. It's just hard to see that there's a real... We haven't seen a player beyond those three, and frankly, it's there's a clear 800-pound gorilla and a 600-pound gorilla in the space with the best capabilities, best traction in the market. That's AWS and Azure, and it still looks to us like Google Cloud is pretty distant, a number 3 player. I assume all of this has already been evaluated by the Pentagon, so it's a little odd that they're going back to reevaluate the decision.
James, what are the internet sector impacts that you see with this increasingly tense, escalating trade situation between the U.S. and China?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at Peter Thiel's commentary, right, Carl, this really underscore the relationship between U.S. and China. It's just more about trade tensions, more about the technology battle of the two countries. But I think China failed to realize that U.S. actually controlled the vast majority of the technology here, and especially in the semiconductor technology. I also cover Chinese internet names. I talked to a lot of internet executives. What their concern is what happened to Huawei, what happened to Chinese internet companies, and it would have a detrimental effect. For example, I talked to an executive recently. They said if we were targeted by U.S., our operation would screech to a halt, meaning we can't even get Excel files or Microsoft Word because we cannot get the licensing right from Microsoft specifically. I think China has to tread this step very carefully as a result, but certainly I think what's underscored here is really battle of the technology IP between U.S. and China.